Thank you for tuning into or watching the Choice, Change and Action podcast. My name is Simone Milasas and I am your host. Your choice creates your future. Every choice you make, action you take, you create a change for you and the world. Please enjoy this podcast. Don't take it too seriously. Don't take me too seriously. Don't trust me. Trust you. You are the one that knows what will work for you. And have way too much fun enjoying your choices. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. So today on my podcast, I have one of my very favorite people to create with. I have known her for a really long time. Her name is Megan Hill. She works with Access Consciousness, and she's also a certified facilitator with Access. And I've really enjoyed over the years of exploring different things with her, with business, with how to get things out there. Her background is in marketing, and yet I love just her ability to be able to be so malleable and switch and change things up. So we covered a lot of different topics, from the 5 elements of intimacy with business. Okay. And I think I'm calling this The Money Will Come for this podcast, but I hope you enjoy it. We tell a few great stories and some really great pragmatic tools in there as well. I would also like to mention, I've got a couple of things coming up that I would love you to know about and invite you to it. First time ever, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a call coming up. It's 5 different calls. They're an hour and a half long each. It's on the 5 elements of intimacy. That is in a really short period of time. It'll be in the show notes. It's in a couple of weeks. It starts, and 5 elements of intimacy are trust, honor, vulnerability, gratitude, and allowance. And I'm going to be playing with that with everything. I'm super excited about this tool. This class and using the tools in there. And also my 5 days of relaxation pull. That starts on May 11th. It's 5 days, 10 to 20 minutes a day. It's $50. And I want to explore what we can be in relaxation with the entirety of our lives. So anyway, enjoy this podcast and big hugs to you. Don't forget to subscribe. You get all the show notes. We actually mentioned a lot of really great movies in this podcast and everything. Get the show notes. You'll get that. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you on Instagram and all of that and more. Okay, bye everybody. Mwah. So welcome Megan Hill, all the way from Denver, Colorado. Woo! And the crowd goes wild.
Woohoo!
Thanks for joining me on here. So we've got a couple of things that we want to talk about, and we're not I love. There's some people I just love having conversations with, and you're one of them, especially with business, actually. We were just talking beforehand, and we've just been sitting on StreamYard, like catching up about a bunch of things on business. And I went, why don't we do the podcast? Because we could just shoot the breeze for ages.
Exactly.
But you are actually one of the most creative people I know. And I remember when I first met you, and I've probably spoken about this on a podcast I've done with you before, is I was so enthused because of your creativity. And it's sort of like, that energy when you meet someone and you go, oh, it's like they have that as well. They have that creative stuff running through their blood as well. And you go, oh yeah. And then it's like this, we call it leapfrog. It's sort of you create, and you ping off each other. And all these different ideas, can be extrapolated and come into play. And you have been one of those people for me for a really long time. So thank you for that. I enjoy it.
As have you. the same fireworks went off in my world as well. And every time we talk, it's like, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's also part of not having to be, someone said to me the other day, I'm doing this stuff on Forbes at the moment, and they asked for these different questions about leadership. And one of the ones that I answered this morning was, how do you make sure that you get, this is not verbatim, but how do you make sure you get acknowledged for what you did? And I was like, if you are looking for acknowledgement of what you did, it's like, is that actually going to create greater? For me, it's like, if you can acknowledge yourself, like really acknowledge yourself, you're awesome. Acknowledge yourself. And it's like, then others will acknowledge you, but it's not relevant. Like, it doesn't matter if people do or not, because you know where you're heading. And to me, that's a true leader. And to me, the most fun I have is that extrapolating with people who are not looking to go, well, am I going to get validated for that? That was my idea, or that was this. It's like, no, we are heading in this direction. We would like to create absolute friggin' chaos here on planet Earth so that we can have more consciousness, more awareness, and a hell of a lot more fun and joy and ease and all of that and more. Okay, how are we going to get there? What are we going to choose? When and where? And it's more like that. And I love talking to people and playing with people that more function from that playground of possibilities. So again, you're one of them in that playground of possibilities. So It's been a while. And one of the things that we've been talking about in Access recently, so we want to touch on a few different things. I think we're going to, the theme, well, maybe, you never know. I love the way podcasts just sort of go into these random different directions, is about business. And we were mentioning about the 5 elements of intimacy with business. Now, it's one of the tools of Access Consciousness. We talk about the 5 elements of intimacy. 5 elements of intimacy are trust, honor, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. And I first learnt these when it was so many years ago, when Gary was talking to me about relationships. And I said, I don't want to do a relationship. I don't do a relationship. And there was this energy like this, like, nah, no way. And he looked at me and he was like, oh, that's a good question. And he wasn't trying to get me to do a relationship or not do a relationship. He was just asking me to look at it, because he's always encouraged us to look at the truths and the lies and everything, and to be able to perceive and have this freedom of choice. And I realized, okay, I have such a fixed point of view with this. And so one of the first things I started doing was every single day, I would, as I was like brushing my teeth morning and night, I'd have it on a Post-it note. And I put it up there not long ago in my bathroom again. And every day as I was brushing my teeth, I would use the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which is right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. And if you want to know more about it, you can find out in the show notes. And every day I would POC and POD, the short version, where I wasn't willing to be trusting of myself, honoring of myself, in allowance of myself, grateful for myself, and vulnerable with myself. Not to judge, going, oh, you were such a bitch to yourself, blah, blah. Just to POC and POD it, destroy and uncreate everything that is. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. So I know we're talking about business, but if you look at all your relationships, and you have a relationship with your business as well, if you can't have that trust, that honor, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability with you, you literally cannot have it with anything or anyone else. And people are always looking outside of them to have something to validate that in them, rather than what if you looked within, and what if you had that for yourself no matter what? So everywhere that you haven't been willing to have the 5 elements of intimacy, trust, honor, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability for you, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyond. Oh my God, you're cold in Denver. I'm so hot here. It's like so humid and hot.
Bundled up, yeah.
Yeah. So you have been, you've been, when I met you, you're playing in big marketing world in America, dealing with a lot of money, a lot of big budgets and everything like that. Can you talk to me about, did you ever notice that there was this place where businesses or corporations were functioning from any of these 5 elements of intimacy, and how that has been for you in business? Have you incorporated that at all in how you be in business?
That's a very interesting question, Simone. I'm like, was there any intimacy? I think there had to have been. And it was kind of on an individual level, like I worked with many different companies, and some of the smaller ones, or when the company was small, like one of my first marketing jobs was, I started on, and it was just kind of like a smaller group, and then it grew as I was there over 5 years, and that intimacy changed. And it's like, so I had that with different people, and we had that like company culture where that was not only like allowed but nurtured, where you could actually be you essentially, and know that you weren't going to get slammed for it, or it wasn't like this cutthroat thing. And then over time, as the company grew, new management came in, they put in more structures, like everything had to become like these processes, like elements of intimacy out the window. And for me, that's when, like you were saying, like you can't look to something outside of you. For me, that's when it kicked in, like inside of me, like, okay, what do I actually have to choose here that would be honoring of me, vulnerable, like all of the things with me, because I'm not getting it within the company. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
it's very interesting because it's so wonderful to work at a place where you can have that with other people and with you. And then there's times when it's actually not, almost like it's like that anti-consciousness leadership kicks in, and it becomes, almost against against all those elements of you as a being. So,
Which something that we've been talking about recently is the structures and the systems. And you mentioned that already. And I love that you mentioned the anti-consciousness, because how often do you see in business people function from anti-consciousness and unconsciousness?
yeah.
And it's usually creating this structure in order to, control everything, force everything, make sure that if you're a boss, it's like you are in charge of everything.
Right.
And that structure will always limit what can show up, rather than what we've been looking at is if you have a system in place, and it's like you let other people do what they do. You acknowledge people, you ask them a question. It's like, hey, what do you know about this? What do you know about this? What do you know about this? Allow people to have their awareness. And also, I think this is where like the systems and the 5 elements of intimacy sort of hold hands, because if you are functioning from the 5 elements of intimacy and you're allowing others to also function from that, and as you said, Megan, it's like being you, like allow people to be them in the workplace, then you create this system where it's a major contribution. And can I say, life becomes easier, business becomes easier. Oh yeah, and then guess what shows up is like your finances, your wealth creation, the projects also become easier. I'm not saying it's all rainbows and unicorns, because it's not. But what if those hardships that show up that you're like, shit, what am I going to do now? When you have these systems in place where you are willing to be in question and you're willing to be in allowance of what is going on, then you literally open up like the molecules, and you open up these doors that the universe is so willing to contribute to you and allow something different to show up, that contribution beyond what you can currently control. So everywhere that you've been functioning from the structures of business, because it's business, it has to be a structure where you destroy and uncreate it times a gazillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. Wow.
And it's so interesting because it's like, I look at like working with Access over the last, I don't know, 10 years or something, as we've grown, it is like, part of the looking at the business is like where structures have become in place and asking for systems to show up. But it's like, I see as companies grow, it's almost like that need, like reaction to go to structure, to go to control, like as though chaos, which chaos is what got you to the growth in the first place. But as though if you go past that, too much chaos, then something terrible is going to happen, and I love watching movies about business. I don't know if have you seen the movie Blackberry about the cell phone, the first ever?
Yes, I have. Yeah. It's great.
So freaking great. And to me, it's like such an example of this where it's like, as they go along, they add more chaos and all this stuff, but then they hit this point where like the structures started limiting so greatly their actual process structures, but they're also their own internal structures, of like, this is the way that it has to be, that becomes a structure, and then you can't see anything beyond it. And I love just like, I mean, if anyone listening to this like works with a company, like these questions can actually create so many possibilities beyond what you've even fathomed. And really, if you look at it, I don't know, I look at businesses all over, and they're struggling because they're like, they put all these structures into place and they don't have the tools to get beyond where they are. So they go to like more structures, but what's actually required is everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, which is actually less structure, more systems, more empowerment.
And
more
and as you were saying that too, have you seen, and I can't remember the name of this movie, but it's about Spotify.
Haven't seen that one. No.
Oh, it's so good.
Go look at it.
And yeah, it's how Spotify started. So, and because it started in Sweden, and if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but we will find the name and we will have it in the show notes. So don't forget to subscribe because you'll get the show notes and etc. But it's so good. And one of the things about that movie that I really liked is the guy knew what he wanted. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to be able to stream pretty much instantaneously, right? So, and he surrounds himself by these amazing, capable people, and they get somewhere and they're so pleased and they go, ta-da, I mean, it's not really giving away the movie, but they're like, ta-da, here you go. And he's like, not good enough, and they're like, what? And then this sort of keeps going. And there's so many stories within the story, but I think it's such a fine line, Megan, of those systems and the structures, because he knew what was possible, even though it had never been created before. And he knew what he desired, and it was costing so much money, but he wasn't making money the issue. He knew where he wanted to go, right? He knew where he wanted to go, and he surrounded himself by really intelligent, capable people. And yet there was this place, like as you say with the Blackberry movie, where they got to somewhere they couldn't see a different future. So it was like they stopped. And that's where you create that structure and you go, oh, this is good enough. And he was like, no, keep going, keep going. And honestly, it's so good. It's so inspiring. But Spotify, what they created has changed our world. And I'm going to do a little advert now, because what we've just created, and I'd love you guys to check it out, is access.me. Okay, go check it out. And what we are creating is pretty much like what Spotify did. It's like not what Netflix did, is you stream, and you will be able to stream, all of the access consciousness classes from there. But if you go to access.me and you sign up, it's like there's a wait list, etc. But we actually do have some offers if you're interested. We've got some really good deals with all of our, historical content, and man, do we have a lot of content. And we are selling all of that at a ridiculously good price so that we can actually create more money, so that we can create this streaming platform. And if you watch this movie about Spotify, you'll see it does actually cost a lot of money to create this, but we are looking to leap forward and do that. And I think in businesses, if you make it about money, you've just created a structure. You've just created this like box that you cannot get out of. And then you can only create based on, do I have the money in the bank account? Now, I'm not saying you all need to go out there and just be like, Simone said, Megan and Simone talk about just do everything. Yeah, get credit cards, get in debt. I'm not saying that at all, because you got to know it's I get so excited because it's such a fine line to know when to keep moving forward, knowing that there is a different possibility and a greater possibility. And also, someone just actually texted me a few days ago, and they have a business, and they said, when do you know when you should actually just close your business down? And I was like, it's such a good question, because so many people quit. Yeah, so many people quit their business just before it's about to explode. Totally. And I have closed companies down, and I've kept them. And it is a moment that you go, okay, am I closing this down because this business is about to explode, or am I closing this business down because it's done? I mean, it's like holding onto a relationship that doesn't work anymore. Don't hold on to it. Let it go. Same thing with the business. But you are the only one that knows. And when you put your attention on your business and you're going, no, I think I'm done. I've got to close it down. It's not working, blah, 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 this whole thing. Ask another question. The system would be to ask another question. Yeah. So, I mean, as an example, we've got Antiques and Possibilities, the antique shop that I have in Peregian Beach. And it's not doing that great. Like every week we're like scraping by to pay rent and pay the staff. So we went, okay, what next? Which is a question. And we've got all of these different things in play at the moment. One of them is we're going to actually swap out everything in the shop. Gary Douglas, he's so friggin' amazing. He came in, he went, it looks too much. I love it. It looks too much like an antique shop. Like, it is an antique shop, you know. But he said, yeah, but you're up in the Sunshine Coast, and it's like you need to have more of that sort of furnishing and everything in there. So we're actually going to do a whole rehaul. So that's a choice that we make, right? Then another one was we actually changed the hours of the shop. Another one was let's go more online. Another choice we're looking at is we're actually looking at, can we afford to buy the building? Like, let's buy the building. The building's for sale. Another thing is let's change it so it can be one of the shops of the Antique Guild, because we have 2 shops in Brisbane, and make it like a sister shop up here, because we noticed that it's literally like the business format isn't quite working. So what do we need to change with the format in order for this to explode? So what if you looked at, instead of judging your business, you know, structure would be in judgment. A system would be asking questions and throwing it all up in the air and going, okay, how's this going to land? You know, and everything. It doesn't allow you to allow yourself to instill that much chaos in your business and throw it all up in the air and see how the hell this is going to land. We destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and parona, in shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds.
I love that. And being willing to to actually follow the energy, you know, and not judge yourself along the way or the business, and have it show you. Because if, you know, Gary has said forever, like, if you're constantly willing to change and change on a dime, then you will never fail. And you can see so many businesses of the past. Like, there's so many cool stories of people who, you know, they saw something coming, like, you know, in the world of music, right? There's the story of Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, and they saw that, like, CD sales, like actual music sales, were going to go down because of free streaming. So they went into they looked at the business and were like, how do we actually create revenue off of music? And it became about listening to it. So they started Beats headphones and made billions of dollars. You know, like, that constant question of, like, okay, what else is possible here? Looking at the world and what's going on. If you're willing to ride that creative edge, then it's super fun. And it's also not always, like you said, you have these grand moments where the story and the movie is made off of, or like Antiques and Possibilities will one day be a story that's like super uber successful. But all along the way, you've had to make all these, what seems like hard quote choices, you know, where you just never give up. And
yeah, I mean, so 2 things. One, do you remember the name of that movie as well? So we can put that in the show notes, the one with Dr. Dre.
Yeah, it's called The Defiant Ones. It's one of my favorite.
It's really cool. Yeah, so it's fabulous. Yeah, yeah. And the piece I love about all of these movies about business is they didn't, like I said, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. They didn't jump on the back of a unicorn and ride the rainbow and everything's like, oh, now I have billions. It's like, no, they went through some fucking shit. Yeah. Like, personally, outside. And the one thing, can I say, they had to have that 5 elements of intimacy. Yeah. I'm going to say them again, of trust, honor, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability, because they had to know that they were capable. Yeah. They had to have that strength and that courage to keep moving forward, because a hell of a lot of people out there, unfortunately don't go, yay, keep going, keep going. They're like, nah, see, it didn't work, you know, always in judgment. And it's like the judgment is the structure, and it doesn't need to be real. And it's like, and you've got banks, you've got governments, you've got all of this. And I'm going to talk about one of my dreams is, at the moment, is one of my requests is to encourage more people who have ideas to create a business, because I think the world needs to be run more on businesses, not from governments. Yeah. Governments, so literally, their job is to work for us. And somewhere that's got flipped. Yeah. And people think, I mean, their job is still to work for us, but somewhere people believe now that we are working, you know, under the government. And it's like, that's not what it should be. It's like, what private businesses can we have out there that we can create a change in the world, make a profit, like make some friggin' money, enjoy money. It's not a bad thing, but also contribute to the planet. That's my request. It's like, what would it take for more of that to show up? So, and you mentioned also, I'm going to mention Joy Business, because I was looking at this the other day. I had Heather Nichols, who's a mutual friend of ours and certified facilitator. she left me a message the other day going, Simone, I just want to say, holy shit, what is going on with Joy Business? She said, I looked at the list of Joy Business facilitators and she was like, God, there's so many potent, amazing people in that list being a Joy Business facilitator. Now, that's come through a long way because Heather was one of the, the OGs. She was one of the original gangsters coming to the first Joy Business facilitator training ever. And she's been there and, worked through the trenches. And I remember there was a moment even I was in Paris with a bunch of people I was working with and I went, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It was costing me so much money each month to keep Joy Business alive. So I literally said, I need your help. I need you guys to help me. Like, I'm either going to, and I looked at this, and you can do this with your business. I looked at the business of Joy Business and I went, okay, where is the world in 5 years, in 10 years' time if this doesn't exist? And I sat with that and I was like, okay. And then I looked at where is the world in 5 or 10 years' time if the Joy Business does exist? And for me, it was like this no-brainer. Joy Business needs to be in the world. So I went, okay, I'm going to keep moving forward and I need help. I need you guys to help me here. And where it is now is a level of chaos that is in Joy Business and it's everywhere. And if you haven't checked it out, please do. I've got a book, Joy Business. It's in Audible as well. It's translated into, I think, 17 languages. There's Joy Business facilitators all over the world doing many, many different classes. And you can, even there's a calendar. We're going to put that in the thread. The other day we were saying, I think there's like 10,000 downloads on that calendar, but it's free. And every day a question or a tool pops up in your computer or your phone. And for me, it's like, how do we inspire each other? How do we inspire ourselves so that we can create a greater place here on planet Earth? Because I think that's our job. That's the Joy Business. That's our job.
And it's so funny, like when I look back on, I remember when my first ever certified facilitator training, you were leading like the business, it was called like Business Time or something then. And I remember like looking around, people were like, couldn't keep their eyes open. I'm like, this is phenomenal. Like, this is fantastic, and, but it made me realize just in this conversation, so many people are so like, this world does business by structure. So no wonder you're like on business because it's like, that gets so boring. But if you have the Joy of Business and these classes and the books and all of this, then no matter if you are sitting in a business that's like heavy on structure, you can still have the Joy of Business. And if you have the Joy of Business and all the tools and everything you have in those classes, then you like have the golden ticket. I remember I was still working at the first company that I worked at, and I had taken my first foundation, and I felt like I had gotten like these secret magic tools that nobody else knew about, that I was asking questions, like they were doing massive layoffs. And I was like, yeah, but what else is possible? Like simple questions. And everyone else was having like the shittiest time. And I was like, everything was possible and magic. And so you really can, if you're willing to be it, transform wherever you are, and then also know when it's time to leave or shut something down or whatever. But I just wanted to say that because it's like, you can create your own, and you can also like thrive in these structures because you're being the system. The system's just going to like chaotically be amazing. So don't give up on business if you hate it, basically. Just know that there's magic possible.
So two things one, we just did this call, like all the staff of Access Consciousness with myself, Gary and Dane. And one of the questions that Gary said, which we've all known forever, but I've been using it so much over the last few days, is what are the infinite possibilities with this? So, and this is whatever it is you're referring to. It could be a business, it could be a project, whatever. It could even be your day. What are the infinite possibilities, for today? Because as you're asking, and if you're really asking this question and you're not just throwing it out there, and you don't need to sit there and meditate and do anything like that. You just need to be present and be willing for anything to show up. That's the piece. It's like that, just push all those barriers down. So right now, any of the barriers that you have with you in business and your business, it's like and if you go, how the hell do I do that? just push the barriers down.
Yeah.
All the barriers and all the limitations, because they're usually these bricks of judgment that you have either about you in business, the business, or, you know, money, or society, you know, whatever's going on. And it's like, what if none of it was real? What if all of it was a lie?
Yeah.
So if you just put those barriers down, take a breath and ask, okay, so what are the infinite possibilities with this? What are the infinite possibilities with this business? Because you're literally asking the universe to contribute to you, asking the universe to help. And one of the bravest things you can do is ask for help. You do not have to do it all on your own. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also you mentioned that on the staff call, and you mentioned it a couple other times, but it's such a good reminder for, you know, it can be of a person, it can be of the universe, but if you can just ask for help, so that's that place of having the elements of intimacy with you, that you don't have to do it all on your own, and you don't have to have it all figured out, and everything is okay, and you can just ask for help, you know? And I love that, like today I woke up extremely cranky. I'm not exactly sure why, besides that it was like Monday and whatever, you know, like all the things. But I think sometimes people think that, yeah, you can use the tools when you're happy and everything, but like even if you like are super cranky and you're like, what are the infinite possibilities? Yeah, right. You know, like today is the worst day ever. Keep asking it. Because, you know, like this morning I was asking, I'm like, all right, what is going on? And it was just like other people's stuff had been like, you know, eroding into my world. And I was like, all right, not necessarily like being the elements of intimacy at this point, like, okay, what would actually be nurturing of me today? I'm going to put my phone down for a little while and just have some space, you know, take that space for you. And like I know that you haven't been doing social media, and it's like all those things that we are inundated with. If you can at least take some space for you and be go through the elements of intimacy to start your day, it's amazing, because now my day is like, it's totally different than how it started, you know?
And that's the key though too, Megan, is you have the ability to change your day.
Yeah.
You have the ability to change your day.
Yeah.
And it's so many times people blame someone else, or, you know, so it's like, how many people or places are you blaming? Or, you know, it's not your fault, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You know what? You get to choose. No matter what your surroundings, as Megan mentioned before, you get to choose. You get to choose. You get to choose. So what are you going to choose today? I want to ask you one last question. I don't know if you wrote it to me or you said it, but you were looking at changing up your business.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know, what is it that you're looking at? What is it that you're looking at changing within your business too?
I'm looking at, it's actually not like a structural change. It's more the energetics, you know, like I tend to be this type of person I notice like I'm available whenever someone needs me. Like my day has been structured around when people need me, if people need me, like all these things, rather than, hey, and so then, by the way, I have very little time and space to like create all the things that I actually desire to create, because I'm just like swept away in the current of whatever is the most like urgent thing at the time. So I've just been really looking at like creating like from a different space of choosing. You know, it's like, if I choose this because I need to fill up the space, is different from if I choose this because I actually want to sit down and create. You know, I have 8 million ideas all the time, and sometimes I notice, a lot of times I notice, the ones I'd actually like to put my energy in are left last. So shifting that around to things that I know that are like really possible, and not necessarily like the screaming, you know, emergencies of the world. And that's what I'm shifting in and as me. But also, I don't know where the world is going, but like with you stopping social media, I was so great. I was happy for you. I was so happy for you. And I was like, can I do that too, please? And I actually started to look at where even that, like, okay, so I've been working with Access Social Media for a very long time. And is that something that I really desire to do, or can it change? And like, what do I know about it? And can it change? So just like being willing to change everything. And what I see is that, and like Gary has talked about, and you've talked about, like the world is changing. So if I look at being on that creative edge of where companies grow and thrive, or where they kind of get lost in the, the sea of whatever, it's like, I think that this truly engaging with people is going to be quite vital. And that's where the world is, like, people are craving actual communication and interaction and intimacy with others. I don't know about you, but I feel like I talk to robots if I'm calling companies on the phone now. If I'm engaging with social media, they're likely somebody else creating their social. Like, there's no true engagement really with how lots going on. So I don't know. Those are just elements, nothing like massive, but massive and energetic of how I create my day, sort of.
But the thing is, though, I think that it is massive. And, as I was saying to you before we actually started the podcast, is Wes, a guy that I work with, he said to me, Simone, the business, like your business is like on this, it's a slow cooker at the moment.
Yeah.
Not meaning it's slow. He was like, we used to make choices and it would be like, like this, like really like, right, overnight, And I said, yeah, but that's when I was also functioning from so much force.
Yeah.
I had called it creative, but in truth, it was force. Was it creative? Sure. And Jesus Christ, I've gotten everything. I've created everything I've created today from force, and control and rightness and all this sort of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to what is my life going to look like if I'm choosing from relaxation and from that slow cooker, from that it's a marathon, not a sprint, which I'm noticing that with that energy, it's like I'm accomplishing so much, but I'm also accomplishing so much, like having so much fun with my body as well, like different things that I'm choosing with that. And that's being fulfilled. It's not being, like you're saying, left on the side, like all those things that you want to create with,
Yeah.
I don't know. And cooking is something I really enjoy as well. It's a whole lot of different aspects of different things. And I think it's really important to have that. I know people throw around that word balance, but I think it is. And the balance can look so different for you. Like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and he said, it's like your life is balanced, but it's not. And I went, yeah, because it's like sometimes if you look at one of those, little topple things that you turn around, it's really heavy on one side, say with facilitating classes or on tour, but then it lifts up and then I go heavy on this side and then I'll go away into the bush or the wilderness or the desert or something and do that. So it's like, it's not like a daily thing. It's like how does this balance work for myself, my body and my business? And you all need to look at that of what works for you, because it could be a daily thing or it could be a monthly thing. Like I'm so willing to go out there and do classes back to back, but then I also require the space. I know I require space. If I don't give myself space, it's not going to be pretty for anyone, basically.
Basically, yeah. You'll wake up cranky like I did today, and I was like, "Damn it, I didn't honor myself lately."
Yeah, and you can laugh about that, going, "Damn it, I didn't honor myself today." Okay, that's one of the 5 elements of intimacy. I'm going to change that, And you can use these 5 elements of intimacy with everything. Like I said, when I first used this tool, I used it in regards to myself. And then I started running this on business. Like, where am I not? So let's do this right now. It's like, where are you not trusting your business? Where are you not honoring your business? Where are you not being an allowance of your business? Where are you not having gratitude for your business? And where are you not willing to be vulnerable with your business? And everything of that is where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9, shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds. And you may have something that shows up that you go, it might be cognitive and it might just be energetic. But as you run this process and you ask these questions, and you can do that with money, you can do that with your body, you can do that with anything. It's like play with these 5 elements of intimacy and see what shows up. See what changes. Because for me, and I know Megan too, we would like you to have the freedom to choose, man. I am the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it's like, let's go. What if this is just the beginning?
I wanted to ask you, what, knowing that you've like gone off of social media for a bit with your business and you're redoing stuff, what have you become aware of with creation and how, like what have you become aware of with it? Because I know that there's so many times people go to, these are the things that create my business, and social media has become one of them. But have you become more aware of other possibilities with it?
Yeah, I have. And I'm going to say they're not tangible. And I am back on social media now, and I changed so many things up. And what I'm looking at with, I have a few crew that I work with my social media, and our theme is, what is social media from relaxation?
Cool.
That's what we're looking at. And we're just playing. We don't know
Yeah.
what this is going to look like. But for me, it's like, I've seen so much cruelty and unkindness on social media as well, and like desperateness. And then I've seen some really fucking funny, cool shit too.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of my recipes from social media, can I say, and I love following comedians. Like that's probably, I love having a laugh and, and finding out new things. So I'm not ditching social media and saying, not throwing it out with the, the bathwater, baby out with the bathwater, as they say, but looking at it in a different way. But what I would say is, I think we've all lent on something. Like when emails came out, we lent on emails. Social media, we lent on social media. And it's like, what I looked at is, and something Dane here was talking about on his relaxation calls, is there is an energetic universe available that we are all a part of. And I think we've dismissed it. And if we tap into that energetic universe of possibilities, we reach out into corners of the world that an email just won't reach, And I'm not saying don't do email, don't do social. I do it and engage with the world by being you. Like I'm noticing that I'm getting more and more people who ping me about something and are commenting about how much I've changed. And I know I've changed. I know that there's more relaxation in my world. And it's probably one of the most courageous things I think you can choose, because it's not tangible. You can't go, oh, I've got this, this structure where I've got this, this budget or this plan, because it's not. It's this, you're trusting who you be and trusting this energetic universe of possibilities to deliver what it is you're asking for. And it's probably going to look really different to what you think it should show up. But man, that's the adventure of living. That's the adventure of business. That's what I would look at. Yeah. Hey, I also want to mention, I've got, if you want to join my Telegram thread, not you, Megan, but I mean,
I'm in there. I'm on it. I'm already there.
I've got on my Telegram thread, we'll put it in the show notes, but it's SimoneMilasas.com/Telegram anyway. But I recently did a video that's pinned in there, and it was when I was hiking, and I'm looking at, it's a tool that I've used to just look at what I'm choosing in my life and all different areas of my life. And I did it in 2020, and I'm starting to do it again now, because I think we should be in constant question of what works for us and what doesn't work for us. I mean, I used to love studying Socrates, and that's what he spoke about as well, And so, and I also did like this Google Doc that you can take and use as yours if you choose. And it's all in my Telegram thread. And I have no idea what that's going to look like. I may do some random videos in there, etc. But these are the topics that I put in there for me. You can make them yours, and you can just get a little black book or a little pink book or whatever you want, is to ask yourself questions of what it is that you're asking for and some of the tools that you could use in order to actualize what it is you're asking for. Because as we've been mentioning, it's up to you. It's your choice. So I have business, wealth, money, relationships, sex, my body, geographical. And then I wrote more, because the more was things like really committing to myself to learn Italian. I've been committing every day to doing 15 or 20 minutes of Italian because I'd like to learn that. So what else is it that I'd like to educate myself with? And then the last one I put for me was earth. It's like, what would I like to be with the earth? And what would I like to explore? And literally explore, I mean like places, like where do I want to go hiking? It's like, I'd love to see the Northern Lights. I apparently love deserts, so I'd love to go to more deserts. Maybe because it's people, I don't know. But every time I go to a desert, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, And so, but instead of just talking about it, and I think, we've been talking about the 5 elements of intimacy and coming out of structure. And I know from myself, and I'm pretty sure Megan as well, and so many people I know, the lines that come out of our mouth are, I'm too busy for that, or I'll do that next year, or I'll do that later. Well, what if you started today? Like, I know that sounds so cliche, but you're the only one that can make that choice, and let's go. So if you want to join, I've got all that information in there, and I would just like to inspire you, and we all inspire each other. It's like we contribute to each other to be something different here on the planet, because that's my request.
I love that. And it's so interesting because it never shows up the way you think either. It's like if you start making those lists, which I have to be honest, I haven't gone through and done all of them. I've been a bad girl. Because somewhere, honestly, I feel like part of my life is restricted by being a mom. So I'm still like getting to allowance of that with myself. But it's like when you start looking at, okay, what would I really like to choose? Like
Yeah.
you asked me to host a class recently in Rome at the CF training. After the CF training, I was looking at my schedule and I was like, I don't even know. Like, and I'm like, hang on, what would I actually like? Not where I need to be, but and it was like, yes, do I have time? I have no idea, but I'm no longer going to let all these things that I use to structure my life limit what's the energy of like what I'd actually like truly following the energy of where you want to go. And it may not, I have no idea why that was a huge yes, but it just was, so it's like come to Right Riches for UCF training in Rome.
Well, for me, it was a Captain Obvious, because you also did the audio for Right Riches for You book, and your enthusiasm when you did the Audible book for that, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. Right Riches for You, brilliant book by Gary Douglas and Dr. Dan here. And on the Audible, you can hear Megan, and she was so, I want to say like freshly vulnerable, enthused by some of the chapters that she was reading, and I could tell that energy that you just went, the world needs to know about this.
Yeah.
And so
I
that's
literally
why
was crying while reading it. And I've read the book before. It was something about getting really present with every single, as you read something out loud, you have to be very present, and record it. You also have to be very present. And I just had moments where I had to stop because I was like sobbing, because I was like, it's what I know. And one of the coolest parts in that book is every single person out there has the ability to create anything that they desire. And the money will come if you find out what it is that you're truly great at. And most of us have never been given like the freedom or even the question of, what are you great at? What are you so great at that nobody else is great at? Like, no one's ever asked that. And now more than ever it is, by access and everything. But like that book was one of the first books they wrote. And it's just like the most beautiful conversation and the tools to actually create your life, and now it's expanded into all this stuff. But check it out, and I do read it to you if you want, but also check out the classes. Check out the classes, because I know, Simone, you do them, and David and Shannon, and it doesn't have to be that you have money right or wrong. It's just like, if you want to know how to create more. I actually was just I like to research random stuff. And today I was looking at what are the most searched questions on Google. And number like 10 is, how do I make money online? Which I thought was funny. So people are looking for creative ways of creating more money. And I think Access is one of the places that actually gives you tangible tools to do it. So
yeah, pragmatic tools, like really pragmatic tools. Yeah. Hey, Megan, thank you so much for being on here today. I am so grateful for you. And we're going to have all of your details in the show notes, but just quickly, it's like, where can people find you?
I have a website. Well, you can just go to accessconsciousness.com/Megan Hill. I do have a website, but I'm not sure it's up to date. I think it is, but I'm bad. I'm really good at doing.
You can follow her on Instagram, etc.
I'm on
as well.
Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Just find me somewhere.
We will put that in the details. One day I feel like one day I'm going to ask someone, where can people find you? And they're literally going to give out their address or something.
Right. Just go searching for me on a little scavenger hunt.
25 Rocky Road. No.
Yeah, or we'll be so like, out of this world, it'll be like, "Well, I can't give you my specific details, but,
Yeah. Longitude, latitude, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for being here,
Thanks,
and thank you
Simone.
everyone
Thanks
for
for
staying here and listening, and we look
yeah.
forward to seeing you on the next podcast. And next month, actually, I'm gonna be reaching my 200th episode. I'm like,
Wow!
"Wow, what a podcast."
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, and April, we're gonna at the moment, I'm looking at it, it's gonna be a bit of a theme around the Earth and for Earth Day. Be lots
Cool.
of fun. So, yeah. So, thanks for being here, Megan, and we'll see you next time.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Well, did you like this podcast? Love it? Hate it? Inspired by it? Can you do me a favor? Can you please write a comment, share it, like it? If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, could you tick a few stars for us? Leave a review. It's all such a contribution, and I am immensely grateful. Follow us on Instagram at Choice, Change and Action, and drop into our DMs and let us know what you would like next. When you subscribe to the show notes, you will receive a brief summary and any questions or tools we used and links to anything we discussed during the show. It might make your life easier. What if we asked for that? A life of ease, joy, and glory.